All right, today we're diving into a legal battle in the AI world that is just wild. We've got a single developer taking on a tech giant with a claim so strange, you have to hear it to believe it. He's saying he invented their AI while using their own tools to do it. So, let's start with a question that feels like it's pulled straight from a movie script. What if you could invent your competitor's next big thing while working inside their own digital walls? As you're about to see, this isn't some hypothetical thought experiment. It's a very real and very high-stakes accusation.
You know, this exact question is at the very heart of a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. It's a lone developer versus Google. And the core of the evidence? It all comes down to just a few cryptic lines of code. Let's start with the accusation itself.
Okay, so let's set the stage with the explosive $10 million claim that really kicked this whole thing off.
The demand is for a $10 million bill of sale from Google. Now get this, that's not for a settlement, and it's not for damages. It's a bill for what the claimant says is his intellectual property.
So here's the central assertion, and it's a bold one. It's from a developer named James Anthony Lambert. He is claiming that the very core of Google's flagship Gemini AI, what he calls the deep think and anti-gravity logic, doesn't belong to Google at all. He says it's his.
Okay, so the official filing pits Lambert against Google LLC. And what's really interesting here is the timeline. He alleges the IP theft happened in October 2025, and then he moved incredibly fast, filing this massive claim just 1 month later.
So you're probably wondering, how can one person possibly prove such a massive claim against a company like Google? Well, let's get to the evidence, because this is where the story gets really, really interesting.
So, his evidence is a series of what are called system process logs. You can just think of them as digital receipts. And at first glance, they look like complete gibberish, right? Just an impossible wall of text. But he claims that hidden inside these lines is the entire story, the smoking gun.
So our job now is kind of like being digital detectives. We have to decode these clues to figure out the story they're telling. So let's break it down, piece by piece.
Okay, the first clue is this term, cross-containers. The easiest way to think of it is like a virtual room or a sandboxed environment that Google provides for developers to work in on its Chrome OS platform.
And if you look closely at the logs, you see that cross-containers address just popping up over and over again. This is the digital footprint. It proves exactly where the work was happening, inside Google's environment. You know, this digital workshop analogy is absolutely key to understanding the entire case. It establishes that the developer wasn't working in his own space. He was using a workshop owned and supplied, from top to bottom, by Google. Next up, we've got these two terms, VACHD and sommelier. These are basically the tools inside that workshop. So VACHD lets you type in commands, and sommelier helps display whatever you're working on visually. And again, looking at the evidence, we can see these specific tools are being used repeatedly. They're like the digital equivalent of a hammer and a saw. They're fundamental to doing any kind of work in this environment. So just to be super clear, these aren't the developer's own custom programs. The logs show he's using the standard issue toolkit, the one provided by Google for anyone working inside that digital workshop.
And finally, the big question. Who is using all these tools in this workshop? Well, the logs give us a username, James Anthony, and this is the digital signature of the claimant himself, James Anthony Lambert.
Okay, now that we've decoded all the clues, let's put the pieces of the puzzle together and see the full picture that's starting to emerge.
What's amazing is that the logs don't just show a single moment in time. They show a full day of activity. A user, Jameson Plus, starts working at 5:51 in the morning, opens up new sessions all through the day, and then clocks out around 2:11 p.m. And all of this happened within the exact time frame of the dispute. And this creates the central paradox of the whole case. On one hand, you have the claimant accusing Google of theft. But on the other hand, the digital evidence clearly shows he was actively working inside Google's digital workshop, using Google's tools to do that very same work.
So, what we're left with is a pretty clear and simple story, at least according to the logs. They establish the who, James N+, the how, using Google's tools, and the when, a full workday. It's an undeniable digital paper trail.
So we've got the technical evidence, but what does it all actually mean for the lawsuit? Let's explore the massive legal questions this digital paper trail leaves behind.
Well, the evidence confirms the location of the work. It puts the developer's hands on the keyboard, inside Google's system. And that is a critical, undisputed fact for both sides of the argument.
But this is exactly where the technical story ends and the huge legal battle begins. I mean, the logs show the where, but can they prove the what? And this blows the door open to a fundamental question about intellectual property today. If you build something using a company's tools on their property, who owns the final product?
And really, that leaves us with the central question for our digital age. In the cloud, who truly owns an idea that was born inside another company's walls? As AI and cloud development keep exploding, the answer to that question, well, it's going to shape the future of innovation itself.